Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, I want to take time to talk about this terrorist attack that happened in Quebec City in Canada. Here you had a white man by the name of Alexander Bizanet. He went into a mosque while people were making their nightly prayers. This man went into the mosque. He shot and killed 6 people, and he wounded 19 other people. This man has been arrested and he's charged with 6 counts of first degree murder. It's interesting that this man was a Trump supporter. This man is a troll, one of these internet trolls who makes a lot of extreme anti foreigner statements, anti feminist statements. And as I was listening to the stories about this case and as I read articles about this case, it reminded me of the situation involving Dylan Roof. Here you have, in both of these situations, you have young white male terrorists who shot and killed innocent people. Shot and killed innocent people because they were different. In Dylan Roof's case, he shot and killed people simply because of the pigment of their skin, because they are black. In this guy's Bizanet's case, he shot and killed people simply because they were Muslim, because they were foreigners. So that's one parallel. And then when you look at the fact that both of them acted alone, supposedly, both of them were right wingers and racists, it just fits a certain profile. And often when people talk about terrorism, the primary image that they have in their mind is an Arab or a Muslim. When in fact, the biggest threat, the biggest terrorist threat in America is a threat from these right wing, white supremacist groups. They are more likely to commit acts of terrorism, not just here in America, but in other Western countries as well, like even in Canada. I mean, this example of Canada is an eye opener. This is the kind of environment we live in, an environment of hate, an environment that is filled with hate. And people like Donald Trump, all they do is throw fuel on that fire of hatred. This man passed an executive order banning Muslims from entering the United States. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you would have this terrorist attack occur in Quebec City at around the same time when that executive order was passed. This is the kind of toxic environment we're in. This is the environment that we're in. And I would not be surprised if you don't see more of these types of acts of terrorism being committed against Muslims. I would not be surprised if you don't see more of these hate crimes being committed against Muslims because people like Donald Trump have created an environment where this kind of sentiment is normalized. This kind of bigotry is normalized, where it's viewed as normal and mainstream to hate people because of their religion. And I think that that's frightening. It's very frightening. And I think that things like this violence that's directed towards Muslims, this hatred directed towards Muslims, is in many ways and in some ways, analogous to the hatred directed towards black people. And I pointed out the example of Dylan Roof. I mean, that's one parallel. And I think that situations like this call for a need for people to work together, for black people and Muslims to work together. And it's important to note this. This whole issue involving Muslims, it is connected to African Americans and black people in general for a couple of reasons. First of all, Many African people, when they came to this country, they were Muslim. That was the faith of many of the people that were enslaved in this country before they were indoctrinated and forced to convert to another religion. So, in many ways, for many of our people, Islam is a part of our heritage. And this attack on Islam is an attack on all of us. I mean, three of the countries that Trump has banned are African countries, countries with black Africans in them. You know, one of the countries was Sudan, a black country. Another country was Somalia, a black country. And the other country was Libya, a country that has a significant population of black Africans in it. And it's because of that, you had the African Union speak out against Donald Trump's ban on Muslims. And I know I'm going off on a little tangent right now, but you had Africans speak out on this because many African countries have large Muslim populations. The African Union spoke out against this. They talked about how at one time countries in the West, like the United States, had no problem taking African people from the African continent and enslaving them. But now they are trying to bar Africans from coming to America. And, you know, I'll post a link to that story. But it's all interconnected. You know, that's my point. And I think that a lot of these people who are so isolationist in their thinking, so narrow-minded in their thinking, so closed-minded in their thinking, in the big scheme of things, they're on the wrong side of history. This right here, these things that are happening in the world in which we live, create a situation where we have a moment of truth. Are you going to be on the side of righteousness, on the side of doing what's right in this moment of truth, or are you going to be on the wrong side of history? That's the question that needs to be raised. So another thing that I want to mention before I go is this. In Texas, on Saturday, shortly after this executive order was passed by Trump, a mosque in Victoria, Texas, was burned to the ground, destroyed. Right now, they don't know the cause of the fire. A lot of people are suspicious that this may be a situation where somebody committed another hate crime, where someone deliberately destroyed a mosque out of hatred towards Muslims. Because with somebody like Trump in the White House openly advocating discrimination against Muslims, I would not be surprised if this was an act of terrorism or act of vandalism, an act of arson, a hate crime. I wouldn't be surprised because when you have people like Donald Trump in the White House with a huge platform spewing a message of hate by signing these executive orders, he creates an environment where people think that it is normal to hate Muslims. And that gives me a lot of fear, you know, the fact that we are living in this kind of environment where people are driven by fear instead of reason. Driven by fear instead of reason. And I did a video a while ago talking about how the hatred against Muslims is so mainstream that I wouldn't be surprised if they were to cart Muslims off to concentration camps. I wouldn't be surprised if many people wouldn't care. You know, that's what I thought at one point. I was like, many people would not care if that were to happen. Many people would sit on the sidelines and ignore it because hatred against Muslims is acceptable in many quarters in this society. You had these so-called black, I mean, you got some people that's like prominent black spokespeople, a few of them who are so narrow-minded in their views that they think that this is acceptable. They don't have any kind of concern about it. Um, Even though African Americans have faced similar type of discrimination. I mean, have they learned anything from history? Today it's the Muslims. Tomorrow it's going to be African American people. Tomorrow it will be the Mexican immigrants and other immigrant groups. The only thing that gives me hope, I saw a glimmer of hope when I saw the people protesting at the different airports around the country. I saw a glimmer of hope when people donated thousands of dollars to help rebuild that mosque in Victoria, Texas. That gave me hope. When I saw people come out, people of different faiths and different races, different ethnicities, come out and speak out against this intolerance, that gave me hope. It gives me hope that many people do believe in what Martin Luther King said when he talked about how injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We have to see the common humanity in all of us. We have to build bridges instead of dividing ourselves from one another. We have to work together instead of working against each other. Because who knows what kind of country we're going to have. I mean, the way things are going right now. You have a man talking about bringing in federal troops into black cities. A man who called for racial profiling and law and order. So anything is possible under this man. And the sad thing is, so many people are controlled by fear that they will let the government do anything in order to make them feel safe. They will voluntarily give up their civil liberties and civil rights simply to feel safe. To feel safe. And that's how the government controls you. They pump you with fear, and you get so fearful, and they offer you protection. But in exchange for that protection, you forfeit certain rights. And I'm just thankful that you have people that are champions for civil rights and social justice, people who have filed lawsuits against this Trump administration for, this executive order. We have several lawsuits now in court against Trump's order. So I just encourage people to stand up, to speak out, to unite with others around a common interest, to address a common problem. So tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.